I'm going to try this one more time. For some reason, before my lock locked, and then somebody just called me and completely shut down my entire phone. I have no idea what just happened. I apologize. Thank you for being patient. I know we had almost 200 people in here, and I don't blame everybody for going on and doing other things on their Sunday. I'm sorry. But I'll roll through some of these questions. I appreciate the people who did do Super Chat. We are doing Super Chat this live. I'll go over that again. It's basically you guys can make a donation from $1 to $500, and I answer your question. I don't see any other chat stuff coming in unless you do a Super Chat. And again, I'm doing this because a lot of you, always ask me, how can you support the channel? As you guys know, traveling, equipment, everything does cost money. And then also too, people maybe can't afford my complete online training consulting service. So I'm doing this to kind of make it easy for you guys to get your questions in. So I apologize for having to reset again. I have no idea what's going on, but I want to talk about how much you should exercise your dog. And we're going to get into that right now. So again, it really just depends on the breed. And what I would say is, thank you so much, Jesse G. I think that, like with my dog Lakota, like I was saying before, thank you so much, all of the above. That's a funny name. She is a Dutch Shepherd. She's young. She's very, very, very motivated by a lot of different things. So I am busy just like everyone else that has a job. And so luckily for me, I get to bring her to work. But I would say, if you're exercising your dog both mental and physical, like my St. Bernard Thompson versus Lakota, my Dutch Shepherd, they are on two different exercising patterns. Thompson really just needs a walk around my neighborhood. And I usually do that in the morning before I go into work, or after I get off the live with you guys, I will also do that. But really what it comes down to is just bringing him for a walk to get him like physically exhausted. And that's all he needs, because he's an 11-year-old St. Bernard. He doesn't need a lot of mental stimulation because he just doesn't. He sleeps a lot. He's an older senior dog for his age and for his breed. And so he just needs a walk around the block. Now with Lakota, she needs a lot more than that to be really fulfilled. And by fulfilled, I mean being able to actually exhaust her to a point where she's laying down, she's panting, she's sleeping, she's content. It's very hard to do that. It takes a lot of time. But I do a lot of obedience. Maligator Mom, thank you so much. I appreciate it. It takes a lot of obedience to get her exhausted. So actually what I'm thinking about doing later today or even tomorrow, thank you so much, Michelle, I appreciate that, is bringing her out. And a lot of you ask me all the time, like, show me Lakota's routine. What does Lakota know? How have you done some of the stuff Lakota has known? I'm either going to do that in a live video here or on my Instagram, at Tom Davis. I haven't figured that out yet. But I'll go out and I'll work her with a Frisbee, or I'll go out and work her with her ball, and I'll do obedience. So I'm getting her mind moving. I'm telling her to do very conditioned stuff. So I'm telling her to heel and down and plots and sit and stay. All of that stuff is going to be... thank you so much, Sasha. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you very much. But with Lakota, what happens is she gets so stimulated by working that she doesn't really care about physical exercise because she's working so hard. So I'll make sure that I go out and I don't run with her typically because I just get too distracted, but I can. But a lot of times what I'll do with her is I'll play Frisbee for her physical exercise. So we're talking about physical exercise and mental exercise. Christina, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And the physical exercise, again, guys, is playing Frisbee, playing chuck it, going for a hike, going for a run, going for a walk, depending on the dog. Mr. Anderson, thank you. I'll answer that in a minute. So anyway, so all of that physical and mental exercise is really important for your dog. So I would say once a day, bringing them out for a walk, at least, at the very, very least. I see a lot of dogs in their homes barking as we're walking. They're on their front porch. They're on their invisible fence. They're in their backyard. They're in the windows, constantly barking, whatever. So exercise is really important for your dogs, and you really, really, really have to make sure that you're giving them the full mental and physical exercise to be fulfilled. So I hope that that answers some of your questions of like how I work with my dogs. Typically what I do is with Lakota, because of her breed, I'll do a lot of, I'm going to just let Lola out really quick. Sorry about that, guys. So typically what I'll do with Lola, or I'm sorry, geez, Lola just went. Typically what I'll do with Lakota is I'll just let her out and I'll let her run around. I'll give her lots of physical frisbee, chuck it, and then also obedience every day as much as I possibly can. I'm going to get into some of your questions. My 6-year-old German Shepherd is dog reactive, working with leave it and come when she sees neighbor dog. Should I keep up with that? Leash with a walk away and she reacts to other dogs and walk by. Working with leave it and come when she sees neighbor dog. Should I keep going with that? Leash with a walk away when she reacts. Sorry if I'm reading that weird. It's just kind of compartmentalized a little different than I'm used to. I would say you should work on, you can walk away. You also need to work on your leave it. You also need to make sure that you're working on your ability to leash handle. So just making sure that, yes, you can walk away from the situation. I always tell people that if you get into a situation with another dog and they're reactive, there's so many different variables that you can do. You can do counter conditioning, or it's what I call counter conditioning, which is using obedience to counter the reactivity. So yes, you can walk away using your heel, using your leave it. Or if the other dog is controlled or semi-controlled, you can try to hit it head on and work on your leave it and just use your leash skills and your leash manners to kind of blast through that situation. So you can totally go the other way and avoid for a little bit. There's no problem with that. But as long as you're avoiding, mainly because the other dog is completely out of control and it's not fair for your dog to handle. So thank you. Me and my husky are sled dogs here for this. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Sled dogs are awesome. Thank you, Luz. Let's see. Little Ninja, thank you for finally doing Super Chat, and your videos help me save my German Shepherd. I can't thank you enough. Cool. Thank you guys again for that. I appreciate that. This is a lot of fun. Again, if you guys have questions, just go ahead and bring them in. I think that a lot of these Super Chats disappear after a certain amount of time, but again, I appreciate you guys doing that. I really, really do. Today, let's see, what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this coffee, and then I'm going to go out with Lakota and do some healing exercises. We also have some really fun stuff coming up. The other thing and I'll talk about two different things. One of the things is we didn't film last week. So normally we're trying to upload 2 to 3 videos every week, but we didn't film last week simply because we were so busy in the facility and we didn't have anybody to film. So that's why I'm also doing this live super chat with you guys, is to just give you some content, give you some dog training stuff. Just because this whole week we didn't upload, mainly because we didn't have anybody to film. Cool. Mia, thank you so much for that. 7-month-old Border Collie is extremely leash reactive. He'll jump after people. Let me see. He'll jump after people, bikes, joggers, and other dogs. Do you have any tips? Absolutely. So when you get a dog that's reactive, there's a lot of different things that I always consider moving forward with a dog that's reactive. Where is it coming from? Typically, that's going to be coming from a prey drive. It's going to be coming from some sort of prey drive. It's going to be coming from, I want to chase. So what I like to do is work on leave it, work on redirection, and the leave it needs to be enforced by something. As you guys know, I started off just doing the very basics with dogs many years ago, 10, 11, I don't know how many years ago. And I can tell you that one of the things that a lot of people struggle with is enforcing their leave it with an actual correction. So being able, and a correction could be anything. It could be voice inflection. Hey, leave it. Just that voice, that stern voice. It could be anything from that to a leash correction with a slip collar, martingale collar, prong collar, whatever. But you have to be able to enforce it. So when you're working on these things, making sure that you're shutting down these behaviors, leave it, pop. And however you're doing that, because that's really, really important, that when you're moving forward, that your body language with your dog is good. You're straightforward. The dog is on your left side, not going all over the place. So leash pressure is really important. Making sure your dog understands heel, making sure your dog understands leave it, and also just being able to really enforce that behavior. So if you say leave it and your dog's just losing their mind and you haven't practiced leave it, that's going to be a problem long term. So just make sure that you're working on leave it, your leash pressure, using your body to block the dog off. So when you're walking this way and you see a jogger in front of you, use your left leg and cut the dog completely off and go the other way. I call it so basically your dog is building like a pot of water, like that's simmering. And what I like to do is tell people is take it off the heat and let it before it boils over. So removing your dog from the situation for a little bit of time to go over it. But when you're dealing with joggers, bikers, runners, that's a prey drive. They want to chase anything that moves, much like bicycles, wheelchairs, rollerbladers, etc. So just make sure that you're correcting that behavior exactly when it happens and you're verbally marking it when it happens as well. I hope that helped. My dog seems to be collar aware with the prong. As soon as I take it off, she jumps and I can't correct her anymore. Any tips? Yes. First of all, thank you so much for the donation, Sasha. Second of all, making sure your leave it, your verbals, your verbal cues are only as good as your correction and vice versa. So the only reason why we ever correct dogs, guys, is for them to long-term sustainably understand what we're trying to teach them. We're not putting collars on dogs and correcting them every day. First of all, it's something that doesn't need to be on all the time. It's something that kind of helps you navigate through your system of training with your dog to be able to teach them wrong from right. So making sure that your voice inflection. So if your dog jumps up, leave it, pop. Leave it, pop. And if you're really collar heavy and you're not really saying anything and you're not being consistent, then the actual command or the behavior or the discouragement or the disruptment is not going to be carried over through anything else. So you really have to make sure that your verbals are really there and you have a lot of clarity in what you're doing. I find that very often that when the prong collar, it's kind of good and bad. It's good that the prong collar is so, sorry guys, it's so aware for your dog, but at the same time, you just have to make sure that anytime we correct a dog is to simply teach them something. And if we're losing that fact, then that's the problem. The last video I uploaded with a German Shepherd that was reactive, I put a prong collar on and I did some redirection and I did some directional changes, and then I took the prong collar off. That would be a good video for you to check out to see exactly how I verbally mark those behaviors. I hope that helps you. Thank you so much. Dane, I got a 4-year-old Dutch Shepherd who had recently started barking nonstop while I'm away at work. My apartment complex has complained she's too bad hips, so exercising is hard, mental is not enough. I would highly, highly, highly suggest either a dog walker, Dane. Look for somebody, on Rover or wherever you live, somebody locally that can actually help you get the dog out during the day. That's really, really big. That's fair to your dog. You have to go to work, which is reality, and then if your dog's at home, that's something that you have to be aware of. That's something that, it's going to happen. They're going to get anxious. They're going to get, verbally, all that stuff. So just make sure that when you're out with your dog, that it is quality work. So first thing in the morning, maybe before you go to work, go out for a walk or something like that to really make sure that, he or she is getting exactly what they need. So anyway, I hope that helps. But dog walker, literally hiring somebody to stay there for maybe the day or half the day or an hour may be really worth it for you, even if you're doing it like Monday through Friday or something. Heather, what's going on? Hope that helps, Dane. Thank you so much. Heather, what's going on? I was actually thinking about Micah because we were actually just in Michigan just the other day. Just the other week, I should say. We were in the Detroit area. So anyway, I was thinking about you guys. I hope you guys are well. Mike is one of my most favorite German Shepherds I've ever worked with. She's really, really cool. But anyway, Dane, really quick, going back, like I said, I would highly, highly, highly recommend just working on your separation anxiety as well. So making sure that when you do leave for work, it's not a big deal. Desensitizing the separation. So a lot of people have separation anxiety with their dogs, but they also have a routine. That routine is good, but it also works against you when you're dealing with a dog has anxiety because you're telling them that you're about to leave. So that routine kind of builds them up. I have one of my own personal dogs that are like that. She's 17-ish, a Lola. You guys may have seen her. She's older, but she's kind of the same way. She kind of has this routine where she wants to get in the truck as soon as we eat breakfast or whatever, because she's used to going to work with me, but there's not every day she can go to get in the truck because of the weather. So anyway, you just have to kind of desensitize it over time. Walk out, walk back in, walk out, walk back in. So anyway. I just had a question roll in about confidence. I don't know where it went. Again, you guys, I'm new to Super Chat, so bear with me on figuring everything out. Thank you so much, everybody, for the donation so far. It's really, really cool. Confidence building, I would say just start off with basic leash pressure. Thank you so much. I don't know how to say your name. You, maybe? Thank you so much. Anyway, and anyway, thank you. I would say with confidence building, creating confidence on the leash is the first place I start. So just make sure that when you're with your dog, create some barrier stuff, some threshold stuff. Get your dog on a leash, put them in a sit, open the door. If they get up, nope, put them back in a sit. A lot of times, unless it's a neurological born with mental issue with a dog, genetics, if you will, confidence is usually stemmed from lack of leadership from dog owners, us, you. And so what I like to do with dogs who are kind of coming in and they're all over the place and you could see, them going in all sorts of different directions. What I like to do is create some basic leash pressure skills. So sit means sit. So holding the dog into a sit, holding them accountable for a sit for as long as you get until you give them a break. So the sit command, the break command, the place command, the place, sit, break command. So typically what I do, by the way, thank you so much, Megan, for the donation. I appreciate you. When you're getting your dog onto teaching them the place, so they have to go to a certain place and then you sit them and then you break them. So it's 3 different things. And what that does is I always talk about a micro, macro, big picture, little picture. When you ask a dog to do something, and then you basically tell them that they have to follow through with that until you then release them. That gives them accountability. It gives you accountability. It kind of puts you in the driver's seat. So confidence building, just depending on what you're dealing with, but if it's based off of your relationship and your dog isn't that confident with you as a handler, those are the types of things I would be doing, is just getting them exposed to newer stuff. I hope that helps. That's a great question. I know that we have almost 300 people in here. I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out with me this morning. I'm going to take some coffee. If you guys haven't yet, hit that like button. Again, we're doing Super Chat. It's my way of just giving back to you guys and giving you guys an opportunity to donate to the channel, as well as make some sort of donation for a question that we do, because over the last 2 weeks, I've just been noticing so many people have been like, your online thing is too booked, and I can't find any space, and it's sold out or whatever, and then you can't afford it. So I'm just doing this to kind of, an in-between. The other thing I wanted to talk about really quick was the seminar that we're doing in New York City. So I'm going to make this really quick because a lot of you may not even live in the United States, but the seminar that we're doing in New York City is going to be exciting for everybody because we're going to create a lot of good content with it. It's going to be January. Wow. April 23rd and to the 25th in Brooklyn. I will leave all of the information in the description after this video. There's going to be working spots and audit spots. I'm pretty sure that the audit spots for Saturday are sold out, but I think that there's some for Sunday, and there's working spots available, which means you bring your dog and we work with your dog throughout the weekend. So audit spots are is exactly how they sound. They come, you guys sit down, you hang out, you can ask questions, you can watch us train. It's really great for people who just want to learn more about dog behavior, trainers. I've had just dog lovers coming in, just soaking up the information, because every single dog that we're going to be working with in a working situation is going to be different. So it's going to be great. So anyway, I'm going to leave all of the details in the description below. You guys can check that out. You can sign up. That would be awesome. It'd be really cool to meet you guys. But I'll leave that below. But it's going to be April 23rd to the 25th in Brooklyn this year. Alligator Mom, thank you again. Excuse me. Do you teach stay or do you teach implied stays when you ask your dog to sit, and why? Great question. That's actually one of my favorite questions I get, because I always leave it up to, I'll tell you why. Let me just take another sip of this coffee. So for those of you who don't know, there's some people will do implied sits and implied stays versus telling your dog to sit and stay. So what that means is, if you ask your dog to sit, that means that they have to stay in that sit until you release them, even if you walk away. So it's implied that they have to stay in that position. For me, the short answer is it's discretionary on how you want to do it. Typically, what I have done is, because all of my dog clients, I train for dog owners who want to learn more. I train for people who want new information. I never put out content for people who don't want to hear new information. So for me, the implied stuff gets kind of redundant sometimes, because it's really about you guys. It's about how you guys want to do it with your dog, I guess. So when you ask your dog to sit, if you want to use the stay, you can. The only benefit that I have found with the stay is my clients are more inclined to say it. So the dog is already set up with a stay. A lot of dogs don't come in with it implied, because it's something a lot of just average dog owners don't know about. So I like using the stay, because when I was in my van traveling the country, my dogs are sometimes in crates, depending on where we're at, and things like that. So sometimes they were in crates, sometimes they weren't. Sometimes they were just standing up. But the problem is when I go to this is just an example of why I do stays personally. First, really quick reason is because I just started doing stays when I was a little kid, and I just have always done stays. I didn't know anything about implied stays, so it comes really easy for me to stay. The other thing is when I would go to grab the door to open it up to let my dogs out, what happened was I'd have to put them into a down or a sit to get them to stay, because they're implied stuff. So if you ask a dog to sit and it's implied that they stay, you're using that sit as putting them in a spot, or a down in the spot. So I just found that I don't really care if my dog goes into a down. I don't really care if my dog goes into a sit, and I just want them to stay in one position. So I like using the stay, because when I open the door, or even if I just have a dog that I don't care if they sit or stay. So a lot of times when I send a dog to a place, I just want them to place. So you could do implieds there. You can say place, good place, and then hold them there. If they got off, you could correct them and get them back into a place. But I do stays just mainly, again, because it's something I did way back in the day, and it's something that a lot of my clients have already done. Very rarely do I do implieds, but literally it's a 2-second conversation with my clients. I'm like, is it implied or is it not? And if it's not, I just move on. It's not a big deal. It's really discretionary on what you're doing. I'm sure in the competitive world, it's not discretionary. Competitive obedience world, it's probably not as discretionary as what I'm talking about. It's probably a little bit more strict of things you can and cannot do, but we're not really talking about that. I just think in general, the implied sit and stay is completely up to you as a dog owner, as most of dog training is. Oh, what's going on? Let's see. My dog's main focus when we're out in public. He listens in home, but when we're around people, I don't exist without the prong. Well, first of all, you got to understand the breed. You get a really excited breed, loves everybody else. That's something that you're going to go against, especially at his age. The second thing is again, you have to make sure that you're being realistic with your actual stuff, your actual expectations. So if you're going to go to a place and your dog is very excited to see other people, and your dog is very a people person, like a golden retriever or a yellow lab, or just any dog, you have to. What are your expectations? Like, a lot of people do that. They're like, my dog doesn't care about me when there's other stuff going on. But you also have to realize where your obedience is at. So how much have you actually practiced, getting your dog into a place down stay and then releasing them? So I guess my point is make sure that you're being realistic with your expectations of your obedience with your dog. If you go into an environment where there's a ton of stuff going on and their obedience is not that great, or you haven't worked into that environment yet, it's going to be really difficult for you to be successful. The other thing is making sure that your obedience is good when you do go into that environment. say you go into a party with friends and family, and then you don't have a down. It's not that good. Your sit stay is not that good. Your place is not that good. People are coming up constantly to see your dog, trying to get them to ignore you, all of that stuff. So you really just have to audit those situations. But I think ultimately, if you're having problems with your dog not listening to you because of the prong collar is off, then you have to go back to the basics to make sure that your actual obedience carries over. It's a very handling error thing. It's very common because dogs are smart and intelligent. And if they're like, okay, you have leverage here and you don't have leverage here, it's very common that happens. And they're kind of like, haha. Just make sure you go back down to the basics so they really understand the foundation of what you want them to do. So a long answer, short answer, go back down to the basics to make sure that when you do get into that environment, you're realistic about what you want them to actually do. Okay. On a heel command, my dog tends to lose focus, passing me when we are going forward for a while. He is fine changing direction. Am I using a slip lead? What can I do? My dog tends to lose his focus, passing me when we are going forward for a while. Again, understanding your actual expectations. Like, what do you want? How have you worked on it? People do this all the time, where they get a dog out and they literally, like, the heel is not that great, which means your duration is not that great. You actually asking your dog to heel in an environment that is way too distracting for your dog. All of those things people do often, and they fail because of that, and it's frustrating, which means you have to build your heel up in I call it the 3Ds: distance, distraction, and duration. When you're asking your dog to heel outside, they have to be really good to heel outside for a long period of time. First of all, they have to be really conditioned to do that. Second of all, you have to make sure that you're like, what do you want? People do this all the time. I'm like, well, I want my dog to look at me right in my eyes. Well, that's a different thing. I want my dog to be right here. So again, it's kind of what we were just talking about before, is making sure that you're realistic and fair with your expectations. That if your dog's heel isn't that great to begin with, and if you're walking and you slow down and your dog keeps going, that's what I tell people all the time, is like, if you're walking with your dog and then you stop or you start to slow down and they don't, that means that you have a lack of engagement, which means you're not going to be able to sustainably get your dog to heel for long periods of time. So you have to build those thresholds out in time. You have to continue to build those out. So it's very common. I would just say getting back down to the basics and making sure that you're working up to your goal. So if you're saying, hey, I'm going out for a half an hour walk, but my dog is engaged for 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, you got to build up. Dogs can't, just because they learn heel inside for a short time, doesn't mean they can go out and heel. So I would just bring it back a little bit and restart getting into the basic groove of introducing and capturing the actual heel command. I hope that helps. Pixels, thank you so much for the donation. Aussie bites with no warning when approached without acknowledgement. How do I correct him when he's fine with me present? I tried positive interaction. Well, I think that you're referring to strangers coming up when they are approaching your dog. So the first thing is, if your dog is having problems with this, I wouldn't have your dog be approached by anybody. Obviously, we're having some problems with that. You can correct him with a slip, anything. Again, when I talk about corrections, guys, it's do something. Like, again, just like with kids, if we're doing this and we're like, man, I really want to tell them that that's not okay to draw a marker on the laptop or something, like, you have to say something, do something. Dogs are very physical animals, so typically we use leashes, we use collars to say, hey, what are you doing? So do something and make sure you're marking it. So making sure, leave it, whatever. I mean, you have to enforce these things. They have to have some sort of reinforcement behind them in order for it to work. So I would say you can correct them with anything. But I think ultimately, maybe you're pushing your dog a little too much to do things that they're not ever going to be comfortable with, which is probably taking on new people at this point in their life. So I would just kind of pull those back a little bit and work on advocating for your dog. If you guys are here, again, I'm new to this super chat and I'm trying to fire through all of these things as much as I can. If you guys haven't yet, do me a favor, like this video. We're doing super chat, which means I'm answering people's questions that drop a donation down to kind of help the process out, be a little bit more efficient. and I'm still trying to keep up. All right. How do you train two dogs at once? Great question. I'll keep this really simple for you. With dogs, it doesn't matter if it's two or four. I train them individually first on what you want. So typically people just want to walk multiple dogs at once. They want to walk them on a loose leash. You have to individually take them out, usually in a separate location, and work on them individually. And then you slowly start to integrate them together. That's how I do it. I've had great success with that. I think people get very overwhelmed with trying to do two dogs at once because they're both feeding off each other and it gets pretty messy. So I typically teach the foundation first of what I expect as a handler, and then I bring them together. Great question. Thanks for the support. Hi, Tom. How do I know if my pup is reactive, aggressive, or just hurting me? I have an 8-month-old border collie that jumps and nips at me and walks. Well, if you have an 8-month-old border collie, all of the above. They're hurting you. It is an aggressive thing. It's not a mean thing, but it's very like, hey, in your face. Border collies, I know that I had another question about border collies earlier. That's the Lamborghini of dogs. It's a very, 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 pushy dog. But I would say, they're doing what they're supposed to, I guess. So making sure that you're outletting that in other ways with the prey pull or tug or obedience. But again, like if they're jumping on you, correcting them. Border collies are very, very confident, independent dogs for the most part from what I've seen. So they're going to do whatever they feel like they naturally, innately want to do. So if you're moving really fast, they're like, this looks like a fun job. I'm going to start hurting this person, nipping at their heels, jumping up, pulling their sweater, all of the stuff that BCs do, making sure that you're in control of that. And that's like for me, like my Dutch Shepherd, like I told you, she's got an insane prey drive. She loves anything that moves. She wants to bite everything that squeaks and is furry. And I have to be able to turn that on and off to when we're going to do that and when we're not. So just be aware of that. The other question I got, and I'm sorry guys, it's like, I want to answer everybody and I'm so sorry if I don't get to you. But the other question that I got was how I got started dog training. And that's like a whole thing that I've done on my podcast before, but in between that and having some of the other questions come in, I'll answer that. I started off, I went to community college the first year, didn't love it. I always knew that I was going to, do something different. I didn't know what it was. I remember walking through the halls of my high school just thinking like, there's something bigger out there that I'm going to be doing other than, studying history and stuff. Not that it's not important, but I just had this inkling in my soul that I was going to do something with dogs, I thought. So I didn't really know what it was, but I wanted to work with dogs. I didn't know how. I knew that I was naturally good with dogs at the time. I didn't know, the extent of it. I didn't know what to do with it. And I started my first company like 13 years ago. So this is a long time ago, where the dog industry now has completely changed and morphed into, what it is today. So I started a dog walking company. The dog walking company turned into me helping some clients with some behavioral issues that their trainer couldn't. And one thing led to another. I was taking on clients that, I told people I'm not a trainer. I'm really not a trainer. I'm an educator. I help people understand dog behavior, and it helps their relationship, which ultimately, inevitably, helps their training. I don't focus on obedience that much. I focus on the relationship problems that dogs have. So that's the really quick version of how I got into dog training, or dog education, or whatever we call it these days. Just a passion that I've had. We have pictures of me when I was like 3 or 4 years old, a little baby, wrangling dogs. Something I've always had a passion for. It's something I've always loved to do. So that's the short story. And then here we are today. So we've come a long way, and we're the coolest dog training channel with the No Bad Dogs community here. So thank you guys so much for that. If you guys haven't yet, we have almost 300 people here. Smash that like button. I'm going to drink some coffee, and I'm going to get to some more questions. This is a lot of fun, by the way. I'm enjoying spending my Sunday morning hanging out with you guys. I get a couple questions about what kind of coffee I drink. And I've found because I'm go 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 all the time, it kind of gave me anxiety to like drink like crazy coffee. So I actually pulled back the reins a little bit and I drank this. It's like a lion's mane mushroom coffee mix. It's just a powder. Sigmatic makes it. It's really really good. Mia, thank you so much again. I'm gonna get to that in 2 seconds. But anyway, so that's the coffee I drink because it doesn't give me the jitters. It doesn't give me like, I gotta go, 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 give you that like an anxiety. I really, really like it. And I love coffee, as maybe some of you guys know, but sometimes when you drink too much of it, you get a little overboard. So I have this powder mix with lion's mane mushroom. It's really, really good. Sigmatic makes it. It's in like a little packet you can get at Whole Foods. So anyway, Lucas, thank you so much, brother. Is training your dog with his meal, training lunch or dinner, a good way to train him? Yes, absolutely. Get that kibble out, train them first thing in the morning on the things that you want to work on. Engagement, all the obedience stuff that you're doing. It's a great way to build a good relationship. That's how I taught Lakota to focus on me so hard, is when she was a 7-week-old puppy when I got her. She's very motivated by many things, which I'm very grateful for. Food, tugs, toys, love, affection, voice inflection. But I just fed her like she had to work for everything. And she just learned that everything comes from me. And that's why she's glued to me all the time, because I provide her everything that she wants: love, attention, affection, play, all that stuff. How do I get my dog more engaged when we train in obedience? She's not treat motivated, and when we use toys, she gets overexcited. Well, that is a playing with your dog is a very, thank you, Roxanne, is a very, it's something that you have to learn. I know that sounds silly, but you actually have to learn, and it's a skill to be able to play with your dog. And that's something that I would recommend learning how to do. There's a great video by Michael Ellis on Learberg called The Power of Playing with Your Dog, I think. Phenomenal content. It goes over the exact fundamentals of how you should play with your dog and how to actually cap behaviors and get a dog engaged with you with a ball or a tug. So I would recommend that, is controlling that chaos. If I get a dog that's I would much rather train a dog that's engaged in tug and play than food all day, because it gives you it's more about a relationship of playing with your dog than it is just Pez dispensing food. So if they have that drive with toys, learn how to harness it, hone it in to take advantage of it. Jesse, thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate you. I want to socialize my 2-year-old 80-pound doodle, but being leash reactive to other dogs. What would you suggest? Leash reactivity is something that you have to work on in time. So I would be working on, I see a lot of Euros coming in here too. So thank you guys so much from all over the world. Appreciate you. Entschuldigung, excuse me. Working on the leash reactivity and being patient, being calm around other dogs. Don't let your dog be overwhelming, because other dogs are going to be like, this dog's too much, and then you could cause a fight. You could cause all sorts of different things. So if your dog is only leash reactive, which is common, they're not aggressive, they're not mean, they don't want to hurt other dogs, you have to really work on that leash reactivity and find dogs that are patient enough to be around your dog to help them get over the leash reactivity, which will then ultimately help you with introducing new dogs. The other answer to that is chain link fences, tennis courts, places like that, where you can actually get your dog to interact with another dog without, anything actually happening. But I would just work on the leash reactivity first before anything else, to make sure that your dog is calm and polite, if you will, meeting new dogs in order for them to get better. But it just takes time. The frustration that you're seeing is reactivity from, I want to go, 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 meet, and that just comes from lack of control. If your dog is at the end of the leash, barking, lunging, pulling, doing this, that means they're out of control, which therefore the encounter is not going to go good. If I see somebody at the end of the leash with their dog like this, I'm out. I leave everything. Nope. So make sure that you're working on your control more than anything. Laura, thank you so much for the donation. You're the best. My dog barks and tries to bite other dogs, even if the dog is on TV. Do you think it would help outside if we train with the other dog? Yeah. I think Yes, the answer is yes. But I would suggest, if you haven't yet, get a trainer to help you with the process. You could definitely train. I mean, it would be nice if you can actually get throw a YouTube video on of dogs playing and your dog's reactive. You can work on it right in your own home, and that's a good starting point to then lead to outside. So yeah, absolutely. There's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't do that. And work on that leash reactivity and work on that the barking, and just really teach that it's not okay to do those things. You're the leader. Advocate for your home, advocate for your relationship with your dog, and make sure that you're controlling the situation at any given time. Dogs don't like reacting. They don't like being aggressive. They don't like biting. They don't like feeling the need to do those things. So it's something that they don't want to do, but they feel like they have to. So getting to the core of why it's happening, and then helping your dog get through that with leash reactivity, and just, I'm not saying that your dog has to like other dogs. All I'm saying is you have to help your dog get over those things. So yeah, to answer your question, I think it would be an awesome idea to do that in the house. I'm going to take some more coffee. 317 of you are here. Thank you guys so much. The No Bad Dogs community is strong. I have a lot of exciting things coming up. I can't wait to share with you more consistent content. Just a lot. I promise you there's going to be a lot more in store for you guys this year than ever before, as far as content, storytelling. We got some new projects coming up that I'm really excited about. So No Bad Dog community, you guys are the best. I think we called it the No Bad Dog Army. That sounds cool too. But if you guys are here, hanging out with me Sunday morning, super chatting, drinking coffee, thank you. I'm just so grateful to have this community. And at the end of the day, I do think about the community that we've created, about being able to just empower each other and be positive with each other. And I just love the respect that we have for one another. The dog training community can be very toxic and negative and polarizing, and I'm trying to do the best I can to blaze a trail in the other direction, to say, hey, we're gonna do what we need to do as a community to lift each other up and empower each other and help each other and educate each other. And that's something that's very special to me that I don't really see in a lot of other communities in the dog world. And so I'm happy to be a part of it, and I'm grateful to be a part of it, and I'm happy that you guys are hanging out with me today. And we're going to get into another question. Again, we're doing super chat. So if you guys have questions, you can do a super chat, which just means you just make a donation, $0 to $500, and I'll answer your questions. Just making things a little bit easier for us to communicate instead of giving thousands of questions. Just want to thank you for everything. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Oakland the Service Husky. You're the best. Thank you so much. Roxanne. Thank you so much, Roxanne. I appreciate you. My dog is territorial. When a friend comes in the house, should I correct her for going after the other dog or sort it out with the other dog? No, you should definitely correct it, because it's not fair to your other dog. So again, I talk about advocating, sticking up for your dog, however you want to say it. Absolutely. You're in charge. So all your dogs are below you and you're up here. And that means that you delegate, like a parent. And so if you get the kids that are fist fighting over a Nintendo game, you have to step in and make sure that you intervene. So absolutely correct that out of the other. It's called probably redirection. Your dog is getting so stimulated when somebody comes over, and then they redirect. So putting your dog on a leash, obedience is really big. Being able to send your dog to a place and stay when somebody comes over will completely eliminate that for the most part. So control is really big. So I would absolutely correct that behavior, because it's not fair to your other dog, and it's not fair to your guests to be hit with that stress right when they walk in. It's not a good environment. It's very stressful. So I would absolutely stop that behavior as soon as you can. Jealousy Zero, $5. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. My dog does well with dogs, but gets possessive over toys. When the other dogs around tries to play with them, he will drop his toy and take theirs. Very common. I'm assuming if this is with dogs in the household, I'm very conscious and mindful. We just got a bark box the other day, and I have 3 dogs, and so I'm very conscious and mindful. They're still dogs. I mean, I could train my dogs to not really, but if you trained a dog to go to the moon and back, that doesn't. They're still dogs. They're still animals. They're still gonna get upset when another dog takes something of value of theirs. So be mindful of these things. If it's complete strange dogs that your dog doesn't know, like a dog park or something, I would never, ever, ever, ever put any toys, balls, treats, bones in an environment where dogs don't know each other. They don't have respect for each other. They don't know each other at all. They don't live with each other. So make sure that you're not putting your dog in a situation for failure there. That wouldn't be a good idea. Alternatively, just watching your dogs and making sure that you're keeping them in check, so they're not going up and stealing other people's dogs, because they're going to get into a fight more than likely. So, it's bratty behavior, just like kids. You get Jill that goes over and steals Bobby's toy and runs away with it. Bobby starts crying and you just let it happen. That's your job. It's dog behavior, right? So like it happens in my house. I don't really care because my dogs don't care if that happens. But if your dog is starting to care and get aggressive, that's where you have to intervene and interject. That's like the moral of the story. It's like so discretionary. You guys are dog owners. Think about that. Like if something doesn't make sense or if something's unfair or something like that, like you can interject and be like, hey, nope, whatever. Or just pull the toys. Don't make the conflict happen. If there's other dogs around in general and it's like creating conflict and tension in the house, take the toys up. Puppy proof the house. Take all the bones and toys up so there's not a problem. Hope that answers your question. Miko Mouse TV, again, thank you so much for the donation. How do you keep your cool when talking to clients that is frustrating you because they are not willing to understand? I think that that's like my sixth sense. I care so much. And to be honest with you, I'm always honest with you guys, and that's what really helps, I think. To be honest with you, I have an advantage. My advantage is when I'm training with dogs and their owners, when they come in, they already know me. They've watched content of me, videos of me. They've been watching me for years, months, days, hours. So the communication is already, they know me, and that's great. So for me, it's a little bit different. I do have some clients that are, trying to figure how to do stuff and just won't. And I just tell them that if you don't do these things, then these are the things that are going to happen. And that's up to you, not me. So there's that. But I keep my cool because I care. The dog owner is there because they don't know what to do. That's why they've hired me. So there is going to be this regression, natural thing of like, I don't know what to do. Some people have a hard time letting go of control. Some people have a hard time admitting that they have a problem. Most of my clients don't, which is awesome. They come in and they immediately say, I'm the problem. I know you need to teach me, which makes my job easier. But just explain to them, use you're the professional, use your experience to say, if this is something that you're uncomfortable with, or if this is something that you don't plan on doing, or this is something that you're going to be kind of flaky about or inconsistent about, these are the things that are going to happen. My job is to just tell people like, your dog is not going to go home with me. Your dog is not going to live with me in the future. You're not going to be able to have access to me outside of training. So I just let people know that this is their time. And this is, I don't twist anybody's arm ever. I don't have to convince anybody anything ever, because, I don't give anybody unsolicited advice. For those of you who, have seen some or listened to some of my podcasts, if there's dogs out there, I don't ever give people unsolicited advice ever. I just don't. Unless there's like a dog fight in the street or something, I don't mess with dogs outside because it's not my responsibility and it's rude to do that anyway. But I have found that anybody who wants to learn will reach out for help or ask for help. I just get very uncomfortable giving people advice that didn't ask for it. It's just like a pet peeve of mine. I'll never do it. So when people do come in and they pay for my services, I tell them the things that they need. And I think, just like I said, I think I have a little bit of leverage in that just because I do create so much content and people get to know me and my style and my techniques, and they've seen me work with as many dogs as they have, and I have an advantage there. But to keep your cool, just remember that you're in it for the dog, and the dog is going to get in a worse spot if you're not patient with that dog owner. And that's how I have kept cool in the beginning of my training, 4 or 5 years ago. And I just was really conscious that if I don't break through with this person and take a deep breath and help, there's a really good chance that the dog's not going to get help because of that. So I hope that helps you. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys are the best. Thank you. You guys are great. Thank you so much. I butcher so many names, so I'm sorry if I butcher this, but it's kind of funny for me to say some of these names. But Akiko, maybe. Anyway, sorry if I butchered it, but thank you so much for the donation, and I'll answer your question. I have an 8-month-old Cane Corso. So far, brisk long walks and training sessions is not enough to end up taking him to the dog park often since I live in the city. First of all, if he's intact, you will probably end up running into a problem at some point. So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I have videos on dog parks. I think the idea of them is wonderful for the city to say, here's a place for off-leash dogs. However, I collect data. That's my job, is I'm constantly revising and keeping things up to date and trying to be the best educator as I can, because I have a big platform and I'm educating a lot of people, and you guys need to trust me. And I don't take lightly to that at all. I'm constantly. So my point is all of the data that I've collected from dog parks have been negative, for the most part. So my thought is just be careful. You get a big bully dog, they become a target sometimes, or more than likely they will, especially if he's intact or she's intact. So just be conscious and mindful of that. Go at times where there's not a lot of people. Go at times where there's submissive dogs. It is what it is. I would much rather your dog feel a little uncomfortable by some of the dogs in the dog park than never get exercise. So it's really a balance of where you're at. But I totally understand. If you can get some dog friends that he or she gets along with, I think that would be beneficial. Maybe going to a location that it's consistent. It's not new dogs, because I just find so many dog fights, dominant behavior, bad behavior, diseases, things like that in dog parks, and it gets pretty gnarly. So I would just say, my thought is do whatever makes your dog happy, but just again know that there is a high likelihood of something bad happening at a dog park because of all the variables you can't control. We purchased Christopher, thank you so much for the donation. We purchased a less expensive e-collar. Should we start with that one or wait to purchase a more expensive? Wait. Don't mess up your dog. That's the big thing with remote collars, right? Is we're trying to, when the whole Petco thing happened and they banned collars, I was applauding. We don't want people to be able to walk in and buy a cheap piece of crap. And those companies and those big box stores sell cheap crap. And they're not good for your dog. And that's where you're going to get damage done. And that's where the dog won't understand the communication. And there's so much involved with using it's the same thing. You could go to Burger King and get a burger. Or you can go to a 5-star Michelin restaurant and get a burger. You're still getting a burger, but the quality is very, very distinctive, and it will matter. So I would highly suggest saving your pennies, saving your money, get a Dogtra, please, for the sake of your dog. There's just so many reasons, but it's a great question. Very, very great question. Lucas, thank you so much for the support. I appreciate you, man. I'm going to take a sip of coffee. I want you guys to do me a favor. We have 321 people in here and 180 likes right now. Let's rack up those likes, and let's see how many we can get as I'm drinking some coffee. I appreciate you guys watching again. The reason why I'm saying like this video is because I want to keep sharing, I want to keep sharing to other people. And the more likes we have, the more people it'll let know that we're on here. And so it kind of supports the whole system, the ecosystem of social media and engagement. And I'm not afraid to say that at all. I think that if you guys flood engaging things on anything that I do, it'll help other people discover the things that we're trying to do here. And some of the stories and some of the things that we've done have saved dogs' lives every day. And so anyway, cheers. And we just got like 50 likes. Thank you. You guys are the best. Lucas, let's get after it, dog. When I walk my dog, and she barks, I tend to get a little angry with her. How can I calm when my dog is barking like crazy to other dogs? How do I do anything to calm down? Good question. Woosah. I meditated this morning. I think it's important for you to take a deep breath, making sure that just you're in a calm state of mind. If you're already in like a bad mood with your dog, I wouldn't suggest going around other dogs to tip that over. But again, just control. I mean, and that's the beauty of dog handling. Everything about dog handling is a representation of how you feel, how your dog feels, how much control you have. So going back down to, I know that this is redundant, I've said this a bunch of times, but going back down to the very basics of understanding your dog and how they should be walking on the leash and how you should be walking them and the calmness that you're providing them with great leash pressure and leadership skills. So I think to answer your question is you're getting mad because she's barking. So why don't you just try to help and fix and try to figure out where the barking's coming from, where that's stemming from, and help her get over those things to help you calm down inevitably, to help the whole situation be less stressful. That's my recommendation. But to stay calm, deep breaths, be a good leader. Sharon, thank you so much. Thank you for your work. It's very hard to redirect my dog and his attention. Even with treats, he will not move and reacts once. To be honest, it sounds like you don't have the right equipment with your dog. If your dog is just a slug in the mud and won't move, you got to have some sort of collar that has action, like a slip collar or a martingale collar, prong collar, a plastic pinch collar, something that gets your dog up and motivated. There's a lot of dogs who are very, 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 very opportunistic. They literally will not do what you want them to do because they can get away with not doing it. They're going to say, I'm going to sit here and wait for this dog to come up and then I'm going to react. And you're sitting there going, come on, buddy, let's go, let's go, let's go. So there's no reason for them to listen to you. And so dogs are opportunistic just like kids are. They take advantage of people. They pick on people just like anything else that we deal with. So you have to make sure that your dog is trained well and you have the right equipment and control to help your dog switch gears and to work for you. Your dog doesn't have to be motivated by treats, although it does help in training. Your dog should still listen to you regardless of what you're doing. So I would just switch up your equipment. More than likely, if you're using a harness or a flat collar, that's probably the reason, because you're tugging on the dog to like, hey, let's go this way, and they're just sitting here ignoring you. Because why wouldn't they? That's probably more than likely the problem that you're dealing with, and I would suggest to switch up your equipment a little bit. All right. If anybody else has any questions here on the super chat, we can fire away. This has been so fun. I didn't, I've never done this, so it's been a lot of fun. It's a way for us to continue to engage. I appreciate you guys watching. Let's see if I can. I just went into live chat now, so I switched out of that, and I just want to thank you guys all for coming. Rob, Tiffany, Dawn, all these people who are in here. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. So anyway, you guys are the best. I appreciate you guys watching. If you guys want to hop into another super chat quick, just got another one, Michelle. I have a 1-year-old lab Aussie mix. What age do they calm down, and how to raise a dog in confinement? She sees a dog or a person and she goes crazy. What age do they calm down? I don't think that your dog will calm down as far as what you're saying, as far as the reactivity goes. They're reacting, so that's not like a calm thing. That's like something, they see something and they're reacting up here. So they're going, hey, something's happening up here. So I don't think it's necessarily like okay, we'll just wait for this dog to hit 2 and then they're going to calm down. I think this is something that, is going to continue to happen over time. Jen, thank you so much. I'll get to you in a second. So I think it's more about training. And again, this is going to be a lot of the same template, but it's a lot of the same problems, right? Like a lot of you guys are dealing with a lot of the same problems. Is if you're dealing with a dog that is reactive and losing their mind, don't wait for them to get to a certain age to stop. Try to figure out why they're reacting, how to counter these things, how to use obedience to control these things. So it's not this off switch that you're looking for. You really have to spend the time to figure out why they're reacting and get in there and help your dog out. Highly suggest hiring a professional dog trainer to help you. If she's going crazy, she's going crazy for a reason. So it's a lack of confidence potentially. I understand confinement, so probably socialization, COVID lockdown, etc. But just working on the obedience portion, operant conditioning, I'm a big fan of. Correcting behavior we want to discourage, reward behavior we do. Sitting there with like a martingale, slip collar, whatever collar you want to use, your dog reacts, leave it, correction. As soon as they sit there and they're wiggling their butt and they're okay, you pay them. So just teaching them that it's not okay, and don't be looking for that off switch. You have to spend, just like with people. Man, I really want to make $1 million bucks this year. I really want to lose that weight, or I really want. You can't just flip that on and off. You got to work for it. You got to find out, how do we get there. I know that doesn't give you the cheap, fast answer that a lot of people are probably looking for, but it's the reality of working with dogs. Is it takes time, and it takes patience, and it takes the know-how. And some dogs are a lot easier than others. Sometimes you get that unicorn dog that doesn't need any training, but then sometimes you get a dog that does need a lot of training. And so first and foremost, I would suggest hiring a trainer. If you can't hire a trainer, go to somebody online. There's so many people that do online consulting. I've been doing online consulting for 6 years now. So I know a lot of other people, because of COVID, are doing it now. So I would just hire help. If you can't figure it out on your own because you're not a dog trainer, which makes sense. It's totally okay for that to happen. Don't be so hard on yourself. Some dogs are really tough, even for dog trainers. And for somebody who's not a trainer, who does it professionally, it's really hard. So I would hire somebody to help you if you're really struggling. But I think ultimately the answer of your dog reactivity is they're not going to get an age and just stop. Anyway, Micho Mouse TV, again, thank you so much. You're the freaking best. I can't thank you guys enough for supporting the channel. This is really going to help. With everything we've got a lot of travel coming up. We're doing some cool stuff. I can't share it yet because it's not happened, and I'm a big believer of not gassing things up until they happen, because I've done that before. Hey, we're going to do 3 videos every week. It's going to be so great. And then, stuff happens. So we're working on getting a system down. I really want to really get to a different spot in my in content game. So I'm really excited. But anyway, let's get into a couple more questions. And then I need help with fitting a 2.25 Hermspringer prong on my Boston Terrier. 10 links slip down, 9 links are too tight. Some dogs are in between sizes. That is normal. So I would go snugger more than loose, for sure. I mean, you don't want the prongs to be digging in. One way to tell if your prong is too big is if, when it's on and you don't have the ability to do a triangle because it's too tight, that's when it's too tight. So make sure it's nice and snug. I would much rather have a prong collar be more snug than not. So I understand, but there is collars and there is dogs that are just in between sizes, and you just have to do the best you can to keep it high and tight and make it more snug than loose. But of course, make sure that it's not too snug where it's uncomfortable while they're wearing it. It happens. Some dogs are in between sizes, just like I am in between shirt sizes sometimes. This shirt here is too tight, and feel like freaking Macho Man in this shirt, and then I get a large, and then it's way too big, and it looks like a dress. So it's just how it is. Almost 330 people in here, 270 likes. Just run up those likes. I'll take a couple more questions, and then I gotta go get some food. Tom, you're an inspiration. Thank you for everything you've done in the dog community. That means a lot to me. Thank you so much for saying that. And, there's days where, it's life's overwhelming, and, just like with everybody. And so I do just love animals, and I love helping people so much. And it is my absolute passion in life. And to be able to have a platform and community that, thousands and millions of people watch the content that I'm putting out is a blessing. And it means a great deal to me that you guys appreciate the stuff that I'm doing, because I'm doing it for you guys. I'm doing it for the community. It feels so good to be part of a community. It feels so good to be a part of people who care about each other. And, you guys are so good in the comments and helping each other out by sending each other links and, giving advice and just being kind to each other and one another. And we're not here to say this way, that way, this way, that way. We're here to say, this is information. I'll take what I can. And, so anyway, so thank you so much for saying that. I appreciate it. Like I said before, you guys are the freaking best. I can't wait to continue to grow with you. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. So thank you for saying that. Let's take some more. Nick Jones, thank you so much for the donation, dude. Appreciate it. I'm looking to become a dog trainer. What sort of path recommendations? I would highly recommend on my podcast, so you can search No Bad Dogs on any podcast platform. And I'm pretty sure the title of the podcast, which is like the number 1 or number 2 episode, way in the beginning, is answering the number 1 question that I get. I would highly recommend listening to that. It's over an hour of information for people who want to get into dog training, or at least my path and the things that I've learned. So that would be my recommendation for you, is to go and check that out. And I wish you the best of luck. Thank you, Nick, for the donation. Nddorion. I don't want to butcher anybody's name, so I'll just spell it. But thank you so much for the donation. When I use equipment such as a prong collar, e-collar, my 3-year-old GSD listens great, but I can't transitions out of the equipment. I answered this question in the beginning of this live. I'm not being lazy, but what I would say is go back and watch that. But again, short story is making sure that your dog actually understands the behavior you're treating. So it's the same thing with positive reinforcement and treat-based systems. It's the same exact thing, just on the other end of the spectrum. That's why I'm a balanced dog trainer, is because there's so many mistakes you can make with positive reinforcement. There's so many mistakes you can make with positive punishment. And I'm just doing the best I can to educate people about, as much as I can. But the moral of the story is, just like when dogs don't sit without food, or dogs don't do anything without food, it's the same thing with equipment. The dog is only trained and only listening based off of, I have to listen because you're going to correct me if I don't. It happens all the time. It's not a bad thing, but it is something that you're not going to be able to sustainably use. Your dog is going to go, okay, I don't want to get in trouble, I'll listen. Your voice should be that. Your voice is something that makes that happen. So you have to make sure that when you're doing this, your dog is understanding the foundation. So start off in a small room and build yourself up. So I hope that answers your question. I appreciate you very much. Michelle Hill, I just want to say thank you. My GSD is so reactive, and I wouldn't have been able to handle him if I didn't find your videos. I can finally walk past cars without him freaking out, but people and dogs are still a trigger. Thank you so much for letting me know, Michelle. Every single person who sends me, hey, you've changed my life with your dog, I read and I appreciate and I take into here. It motivates me, so thank you so much. Continue to work. All the things that you're doing, just continue to keep working on the things that you... the things that you found successful with handling him on the walks, just try to transfer to people, and dogs are still a trigger. And if it's okay if they're a trigger, as long as you can reel that in, it's okay. You don't look for perfection, look for progress. It's okay if your dog reacts once or twice. I mean, just look at how far you've come. So just keep working at it. And if you're finding some progression, just keep building that progression. The wolf pack, can you explain humanizing a dog? Don't treat your dog like human, because they're not. They get confused. Talking to them, having the conversations with them, asking them if they want to go places, things like that. I talk to my dogs all the time, but I don't expect them to answer. So not picking them up, all that stuff. Making sure that you're a solid leader, and making sure that you're not afraid to give them structure. Okay, you guys, I gotta go. I'm so hungry. I can't thank you guys enough. Before you guys leave, drop a comment, like this video. We'll do this again next week if you guys want. Leave a like if you guys like this. I want to know, because this is something brand new for me. I've never done this. So thank you guys for joining me. Thank you guys for being with me. I will talk to you guys next week. have a good weekend, have a good Sunday, relax, go hang out with